Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the August 22nd, 2024 Hopkinsville Committee of the Whole meeting to order. And ask clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Francis.
Here.
Councilmember Smiley.
Here.
Councilmember Marsh.
Here.
Councilmember Crabtree.
Here.
Councilmember Craig.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Wilcox.
Here.
Councilmember Meek.
Here.
Councilmember Lumberger.
Here.
Councilmember Keel.
Here.
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
Councilmember Handy. And we do have a quorum.
Thank you. And Councilmember Handy did send his regards to everyone. Most of you know school will be firing up, I think, on Monday, and he is in his classroom. Councilmember Martin, you're very excited. You must have a few going to school. So with that being said, I'd like everybody to please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll jump right into the approval of minutes. They were in your packet. We'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I'll go Craig and Marsh. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, jumping right down to our administrative matters. I'd like to call on William Outlaw to give us an update at what's going on out at the airport.
Good evening. Thank you all for having us here tonight. And for those of you that I haven't met, my name is William Outlaw. I'm the director of the Hopkinsville Christian County Airport. And then this is Ronnie Canups. He's our engineer and a representative of the Stantec engineering firm. Ronnie was nice enough to come out tonight to kind of back me up on some of the more technical aspects of our airport and our upcoming plans. It's my understanding that this is the first time that we've ever been really invited to speak at the Committee of the Whole meeting. So we appreciate the opportunity to explain just what we're doing out at the airport here in Hopkinsville. So we would like to tell you guys a little bit about several things tonight. So if any of you have any questions at all, please feel absolutely free to jump in and ask me while I'm talking tonight, because I live, sleep, and breathe this stuff, aviation. I mean, and so I tend to put a little bit too much technical stuff into it sometimes for the people that know little about the subject. So just please feel free to stop and ask me if I'm being confusing in any way. So a little background, we're a public use general aviation airport located just to the east of downtown Hopkinsville. We have a board of 10 and several advisory board members as well, 4 to be exact. They keep me in line. Terry Meek is one of those advisors. We manage approximately 280 acres east of the Pennyroyal Parkway, and you can see that here in this Google Earth image. The highlighted yellow, obviously, is the border. We currently lease 58 T-hangars, which house aircraft stacked tail to tail for space efficiency. So what I mean by that, for those of you that don't really know what I mean by T-hanger, here's an image that may help. This design keeps the wasted space at a minimum, and it's the manner in which most of our hangars are built. We have 2 large box hangars, which are, just as they sound, square boxes, each of these being approximately 10,000 square feet. And both of those hangars house local businesses, which are Harrison Avionics, which is a full-service avionics shop. There on our field, and then RW Charters and Agra Enterprises is in the other one. It's the smaller one there to the left in that image. Our runway is one of the nicest in Kentucky, and it's 5,505 feet in length by 100 feet wide. And we have published GPS approaches into our field, which is to say most modern aircraft are able to shoot an approach into our field, even in pretty crummy weather with like vertical and horizontal guidance. So that they don't run into the ground in bad weather. All in all, we manage about $7.26 million in assets, and we have regularly scheduled monthly board meetings. And Daryl Gustafson, which all of you probably are familiar with, is our financial advisor. He keeps a pretty tight grip on my purse strings. So we're profitable, but only really because of the grant money that we received, or that we do receive. And that keeps us, we're able to continue progressing as an airport. And this animation, if I can get this to pull up, I don't know if I can get this to throw to the screen or not. I may not be able to. I'm just gonna, anyway, this animation, let's see. Technical difficulties, okay. I'm not gonna bother with that, but anyway, this animation depicts, if it were animating, it would depict the various states that we touch just from our little airport. The Kentucky Department of Aviation compiled this graphic based on 2022 data that was pulled from our airport's arrivals and departures. So what it shows, if it would play, is that we touch almost each and every state that you see that's white there, we touched in 2022. In reality, our traffic it's picked up quite a bit from this older data. So we actually make contact with more states economically than this animation even shows, really. So I estimate that approximately 88% of the aircraft that come and go from our airport are there for business purposes. So the other 12, they may not have as much impact on our GDP per se, but or on the United States GDP, but that 12% also tends to spend money in our hyper-local economy at restaurants and at hotels and shopping, in the local area. If we look at data compiled from our state airports, which is like every airport in the state of Kentucky, we can see the Kentucky airports have a very long reach with respect to nationwide contact. In fact, in 2022, almost 219,000 flights left Kentucky and continued to each and every state in America, including the outlying states of Alaska and Hawaii. Back in March, Grupo Anlin had a breakdown in some other state on some other factory, and it caused our local Grupo Anlin to become responsible for all the headliner production in 2 factories. And so I think it was the Hyundai and the Ford automotive factories down in South Georgia and another one in South Alabama. For about a week, day and night, we serviced 30 to 40 aircraft in and out of our airport, moving headliners from Hopkinsville to Alabama and Georgia. And as you can see, we were pretty crowded on our little commercial rail. In this slide, we can see the Stanley Corporation, which is what used to be known as Pop Fastener, or what I knew as Pop Fastener, Stanley now. They brought some executives in. This was just a couple of days ago. And the reason I'm showing you all the pictures of these aircraft is just to give you an idea of the impact these larger airplanes have on our income. Each time we service a jet of this size, or jets of the previous slides that I've shown you, we pump an average of $3,500 worth of jet fuel, and we make a pretty decent margin on that. So these companies are doing millions of dollars worth of work and business in our local area. They're boosting our economy and creating massive amount of sustainable work for our local residents as well. I mentioned in the very first slide in this deck that I was going to talk about our recent growth. Just a few years ago, we built 10 new T hangars, and the beginning of this year, we completed 10 more new T hangars. And we were able to self-fund both of those projects. We have most of these hangars rented out already, but our real need now is some larger box hangars for larger jet aircraft to be housed. Because we do have several aircraft that would come here right now, and I have that on good authority from several different owners that can't be here because we don't have anywhere to put them. So our fuel sales would benefit greatly, and the business that they do in this town would benefit as well. So I've been working with Mayor J.R. Knight and the city in an attempt to obtain some additional land on the east end of our property to start building these hangars as soon as possible. Additionally, we just received approval for grant funds from the FAA's 5-year bill, which it just got authorized. And it was an increase in funding for general aviation airports. It was a 1,000-page bill known as the FAA Reauthorization Act. And it's a comprehensive piece of legislation that will impact every sector of aviation. But most importantly, it'll help us get the infrastructure developed ahead of building several new large hangars. Which brings me to our airport layout plan in this slide. This map depicts our future development layout and what we intend to look like in the near future. I'll hand it over to Ronnie Canups of Stantec Engineering to explain quickly what the drawings represent.
Well, I don't know how quick I'm going to be. I'm going slightly off script because Billy's still kind of new at this, but it's still great in the economic impact for aviation in Kentucky. And the data is a little bit old. I want to say 2 or 3 years old, but a lot of people don't realize that Kentucky is the second largest exporter of aviation industry product in the country. Number one being Oregon with the Boeing plant. So, and that's parts, that's pilots, that's training, that's everything. They're number 2 in the country. So it's a huge deal to the state of Kentucky, the aviation industry itself. That's all I'm going off script. So if you look at this plan right here, this is a working plan that we're putting together. We're fixing to send to the FAA for approval. The dark bluish green with the yellow circles are the buildings that's already existing. Some of the buildings that are already existing. But the bright blue buildings are what we're looking at for future development at the airport. And then the green buildings are kind of a longer term development for the airport. And what we're working with the airport to basically, I keep telling them that it's like a subdivision regulations. We've helped them put together minimum development standards, and that now these little buildings would be almost parcels. And the idea is that the airport doesn't have to self-fund so many buildings, because building, as y'all are probably very aware, it's gotten so expensive to do construction now. And we're seeing our building costs, double in the last 5 years or so. So the goal is we're going to use the FAA funds that are available to prep the sites as much as we can to where we have building pads ready with utilities, to where we can work with public-private partnerships or talk to people who want to invest in the Hopkinsville to where they just have to drop the building in place. And it's just, as you see, it's just with the E1, E2, E3, E4, you're just moving down the line, and as people show up, here's your next spot, here's your next spot, here's your next spot, here's your next spot. And as he said, the idea is it could be a business that comes in here that brings more employees. Immediately, you're going to get fuel cells out of it. And fuel cells are the lifeblood of a general aviation airport. Hangar cells help. Hangar cells help an airport to stay in business. Fuel cells make it profitable. And by profitable, I mean able to reinvest, because generally airports are actually operate at a loss. So Hopkinsville's very privileged in the sense that it can actually invest in the future like it's been doing. And we're actually, you've used funds for obstruction removals with the city's help, for land purchases, and all of that looks much better when you're handling your safety, your everyday safety operational stuff. When you go to the state and the feds and you're like, can I get more money for something? Because you're not asking them to take care of your day-to-day needs. Hopkinsville's managing to take care of their day-to-day needs using their revenues. So when you ask for these big projects, it just looks that much better. But this is kind of the long-term plan of what you're seeing there is all of that I'm showing in the top right corner is all corporate type development. And then you can see the new T hangars back in the back, kind of in a longer term. But like, as he said, the focus is corporate. So,
and to clear up exactly where that area is that he's talking about, the E15 through E10 and the E99 through E16, if that makes sense, in the green up there on the top right, that's all land that you guys own actually right now, but we're trying to get a portion of that land granted to us so that we can continue doing the development area that's there, because even E1 and E2 there you see in the blue, we don't really have the room to squeeze those in right now. And so we need to set those back on the property that, if you guys are familiar with where the county road department is, that's where we're talking about. Okay. So if any of you guys have any questions about that at all, because it's a little bit of, well, it's a lot to take in from just a first view there. Give me a shout after or anytime. I'm almost done here, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention some of the philanthropic things that several organizations and people and pilots have done over the past few years since I've been involved with the airport. So Pilots with a Purpose is a new organization that we have been working with that offers 20 to 30-minute flights for the cost of fuel only. And its purpose is it's to introduce minority and female participation into aviation careers later in life. And it helps eliminate cultural and ethnic disparities in the industry. So Jacob Beal and Gabriel Robbie, I told them I would mention their names because they're two local pilots and flight instructors, and they're working out the details. But we're planning on doing some flights next weekend, August 31st, at our airport or out of our airport. Please check out their website if you get a chance to. I have their contact information for them. If anybody's interested, give me a call at the airport, and I can give you their contact info. And click on that link if you want to, or well, you can't click on it, I guess, but type it into your computer if you'd like to look further into that. We have hosted EAA, which is the Experimental Aircraft Association, Young Eagles events each and every year since I've been here at our airport as well. It's the same premise as above, where pilots donate their time and airplane to take children between the ages of 8 and 17 for their first free ride. Our local chapter is 1633. It's managed by Tim Tucker and Wesley Westerfield and myself. Visit our Facebook page for updates on the next available event. We haven't got anything planned right this second, but we'll post that on our Facebook. Our Facebook is facebook.com/Hopkinsville Christian Co. Airport. And then check out the link in the slide above if you want more information on that Young Eagle stuff. Lastly, we hosted an event for the Boys and Girls Club of Hopkinsville several months ago. It was actually about a year ago. It was organized by Matt Hooray and Clay Travis and sponsored by J-Tech Column Systems, where they're both managers. And check out the links for that. The photos were wonderful. We had a really good time and a good turnout for that one. With that, I'll get out of y'all's way and thank y'all for giving us the opportunity to introduce ourselves and our facilities to the committee and the public. And we look forward to checking back with you in the future. Have a good evening.
I think, any questions? Well, I see Terry's got his hand up. Don't run off. There's going to be questions.
Okay.
You don't get off that easy.
All right.
So anyway, I'm supposed to do a little briefing for Ward 8 on airport.
He just
board.
stole your thunder.
So you're doing, I don't want to be redundant. I want to make friends here. So on the 5th, tell everybody about the fly in on the 5th Saturday of the month.
The 5th Saturday, yeah. So we're doing a thing, and this was an idea that we came up with a while back. There's only a few 5th Saturdays in the calendar year. I think there were 4 this year. So we're doing 5th Saturday cookouts and just trying to kind of liven our airport up a little bit and get more general aviation fly-in people to come. We started it out as kind of like a hangar appreciation, like our tenant appreciation weekend, but it's growing a little bit. And so I sweat it out and run a smoker, and we smoke food, and sometimes it's edible, sometimes it's not. And but it's more for camaraderie than eating, I'm pretty sure. But we're doing one of those on on August the 31st.
And then there's a lot of advances that we're making right now on the property, to the south part of the airport. We're going to start clearing land. And then also we have the tree trimming that's going on.
Right.
You might mention just a little bit on that.
Sure. And I didn't want to get into too awful much because I was going long.
Weeds, but the trees are good.
But yeah, it would actually be the west end. We're in the process of land acquisition that we were able to purchase, and that was through Sandwood Estates. We bought 8 acres from them and I'm not going to get into the technical stuff on it, but we have what's called an RPZ, which is a runway protected zone. And what that means, it's an imaginary plane that comes out from the approach end of our runway and goes out at an angle and up at an angle as well. And we have to have that area protected as per the feds. And so what we needed to do was purchase that ground so that we could clear the trees that were encroaching into that imaginary plane. So we got the land done, we got the deal, but we haven't closed it yet. We're waiting on Bill Deathridge to sign the paperwork. And so once we get that done, we'll start clearing those trees. And once we possess that property, we're hoping to take all the trees that we clear from the other side of the interstate that are in the approach path as well. And I'm thinking we may try to push them over into that same 8-acre area and then either burn them or try to get rid of them that way, because we're having a lot of trouble getting rid of them right now. As you guys may have seen, we've got kind of a pile of debris on the far side of the interstate opposite of the airport, and we just don't have anywhere to put it right now. So once we get that property done, we'll start moving quicker.
He's one of the hardest working individuals I've seen in Hopkinsville. I know everybody works hard, but this
wow. Well,
guy,
thank you.
last summer, we had crop dusters coming in, helicopters. He was refueling those things himself 16 hours a day and was on 24-hour call, all of it by himself. And it was a tremendous profitability boom for us, plus a labor of love. I don't know how you do it, because you're like a one-man staff and you're running the whole shooting match. So anyway, appreciate everything you're doing for us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Chuck?
Well, first off, William, I thank you for coming and sharing with us. The second thing with the philanthropy things that you're doing, I would recommend that you reach out to the mayor and Amanda, public information officer, and maybe that'll help you get that to a little wider audience.
Sure. Good deal. Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Outlaw? I'm going to try to call you William. Thanks a lot. Known you a lot of years. It's been Billy since we were
That's
kids.
fine. Yeah.
But,
Tell me whatever you want.
Sure appreciate the update. I know most of us sitting here probably never had a update from the airport, and there's a lot more going on out there than I thought. So thank you very much. Great update.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
All right. We will move right now to Miss Tiffany Terrell. I didn't want to butcher it, who is our Revenue Enhancement Officer, if I'm correct. And she's going to tell us a little bit about what she does on the day-to-day.
All right. How are y'all doing? Good evening. Sorry I had to run out on y'all last month for Committee of the Whole with the death in the family, but I was supposed to present this to you last month, but sorry. But I am here now, and I will do it tonight for you. Zach, are you going to do this one? Okay. So you got it up there. All right, well, some of you guys know me, some of you don't. My name is Tiffany Terrell, and I am the Revenue Enhancement Officer, and I have worked for the City of Hopkinsville for 11 years, all being a part of the finance team. So I get asked all the time, Tiffany, what do you do? My job is responsible for developing and implementing ways to generate revenue and funding resources for the city, whether that be delinquent accounts or new revenue. So I've been in this position a year, and I've done a lot of research and growing. And my main focus was we started the new software program, Excella. So Melissa entrusted me to get that started, and I did it the last year trying to perfect it to where our wants and our needs for this tax office, because I am over them. So, all right. So how have I tried to generate more revenue for the city? First, you have to have an awesome team, and I do have that in the tax office. I have 3 ladies that work in there, and Shannon Cushenberry, she oversees the daily task, and then I got 2 revenue and license specialists. And those 3 ladies work hard. They have really busy tax seasons. They seem to collect great numbers. They collect for business license, payroll, insurance premium tax, and property taxes. And while I was helping design Excella, they were always in the back of my mind trying to get them to, make their job easier and get a better system going for us. So also I went out in the county or city, well, I shouldn't say county, city. I went to the industrial parks, the new school, and the boulevard. And those are some pictures I updated last week. But I go out there and I try to see who's coming in and out and take names and send out letters and try to get new businesses, who's coming in our city and not knowing if they have a license or not. So I also send out notices. I've sent out 150 letters since I've been in this position. 35 of those have been to Ascend, Toyota, and the new school. I've seen great responses. People call me and let me know what they're doing, how long they're going to be in this town. if they need a business license or not. So I do try to get them connected with the tax office through that way. All right, other ways of collecting revenue. The CDS will send me a list, all the new projects going on, and I will check the contractors list and see if they have a license or not. And if they don't, I send them a letter, or I will contact them by phone, just depending on what information I have. Business license checks on any new vendors, anything that comes through my work queue. When we're writing checks, I make sure they have a license, so before we release the check to them. So that's one way we're checking. Each month, I run a report for the new business license taken. If they have employees listed, I will send them a letter saying, hey, make sure you're filing payroll with us if they've listed employees. And then we send out 3 notices in the tax office, and plus with myself too. Once the 3rd notice is mailed, I prepare a list and send to Doug for legal action. We have collected a total of $19,141 for the last year, 2023-2024, on delinquent accounts through legal action. So I also published the delinquent property taxes for 2023. It went to the Kentucky New Era, and we collected $118,015.58 just by sending out that notice extra, I believe. It also went to it was published on our website for 30 days, and I believe us sending those notices out, we get response back and get money. So, all right. So we had the first Boulevard Bash, June 15th, and I had to make sure the businesses had licenses to participate in this event. So when Diane, she first came to me, she's like, "Hey, I need a list with all the businesses on the boulevard." And I was like, with our old system, there was no way I was going to pull all that. So I had to go through a spreadsheet and develop it. And I checked them. So there was like 20% that didn't have a current license. So I did an on-site visit and sent out letters to them of what we needed for them. But I just want to say, with Excella, as we design it, we see problems pop up. For next year, we'll have more data collected. You can come to me and say, "Hey, I need some information on all the businesses on the boulevard." I can give you that through Excella now, because we're implementing this software to help us better, and we didn't have that before. So I do appreciate you guys letting us get this software, and just for the betterment of all of us. Okay. And with that, Excella is live. We are live with business license, payroll, insurance premium tax, hotel, motel, anything that the tax office can collect. We are live. We did have property taxes online before, but we went live the first week of August, and we had about 20 people sign up, and we were able to review their application, either approve them or send them an email and ask them for more information that we needed and or the money. Excella is linked to our website. You can go to our website, and then there's a button that says Pay Online. You can go to that online button, and it'll take you to the Excella landing page, and you can create an account and pay whatever you want to online. So we're pretty excited about that. Perks with Excella, like I said, Small Business Commission came to us, and they were like wanting some information on small businesses. We couldn't give it to them this last year because of our old system. With, again, another problem arises, so we implemented with Excella, and we changed it so we can make it a reality for next year. As the data comes in, we can give you whatever information you requested at that time. So we're excited about that. And then like letters versus emails, like I said, we went live the first week of August, and versus snail mail, we can get a faster turnaround is what I'm trying to say. And we are seeing that with being online live. And then license lookup, you can look up and see if anybody's active or inactive, which is pretty cool. Where anybody can look it up because it's public information. And then on-site signups, I can be out in the community more for on-site visits. I can sign up businesses or collect past due information or fees, whatever I need to get, because we are online, and that is an option for us now. And this is just from last year, or year-to-date comparison for 2022 and 2023, and then 2024. I was supposed to present this to you last month, and I do apologize, but these are the 4 big revenues that the tax office collects. You can see that revenue was up. You also see a big jump in the business license, but that's because of the $10,000 cap that was eliminated. But as you can see, it takes a team effort. We're all here to play an integral part of making this happen. I look back on this year and as a time of growth. My hope is to keep pushing, getting out in the community more. And at the end of the day, I just want to do all I can do to make Hoptown better. And I did throw this next slide in because it's July's. We did hit our target for business license, payroll, and insurance for July. So I do just wanted to point that out. You know, our target was 8.33%. We hit it for 9.12%. And then we won't start collecting property taxes until October, so that won't be on there. And if you have any questions, that's my contact information. I appreciate you guys being lenient with me. I'm here to represent the back employees that don't really come up here and talk a lot, so just be patient with me and I'll get with you as soon as I can, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Any questions for Tiffany? You can't run, you can't run off till they get a chance to grill you real quick.
No.
Any questions?
This software, council members, we're growing with it.
Yes.
We're doing things that we simply couldn't do before. You'll be able to ask us how many new women-owned businesses, so minority owned,
Yeah.
we can aggregate that. We can hit businesses with text and emails, whereas they were mailing out letters. We would get to QR codes in the windows where we can go by with a gun and we'll know if their licenses and everything's are up to date and so forth. You don't have to step in. This is going to take us on
Yes.
different new levels. So the revenue, it's paid for itself.
Yes.
And therefore, we're going to have to continue. You will start to see increases in software and our budgetary ask. That's just the new normal.
I feel like we're with times.
We can't
we
go
were
back.
behind. Yeah.
That's just impossible. So again, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Any more? I appreciate you guys understanding.
No, thank you very much, Tiffany. So, we're gonna let the applause die down before we move on back there. Wow, that's great. Terry, you're up on the agency board report. I mean, William kind of did it for you tonight. If we could all be so lucky when it's our turn to have the board here, that would be great. All right, so I think Terry has decided to yield his time. So I'm going to skip right through unfinished business because there's not any and jump right down here to new business. And I'm going to call on our very own Mayor J.R. Knight to talk about surplus property, the L&N Depot.
Good evening, council. The depot, everyone loves the depot. Trust me, I know. A lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. But what we have here is we have a little over $2.53 million worth of repairs that need to be done to this building and this property. And I've been talking to people around the town. I've been talking to investors. Me and William Turner had a conversation, I believe it was last Monday morning. And me and William had a really good conversation, and Troy was there. We talked about we want to see the depot be repaired. We want to see how it can be done. Where we're at right now is surplus in the depot. We like to put it out there because we have some private investors wanting to invest in it. Me and Doug have talked about it. We are going to put in language when we put the bid package out, if y'all approve to surplus it, that it remain in the same architectural design that it has on the outside. So everyone in the city of Hopkinsville and people that come to town know it is a depot. Now, I cannot give you the names of the people. They asked me not to, but they're wanting, some talked about putting a little bakery in there, a little wine shop in it, things like that. Others talked about offices, and one guy said we had to put in some thick windows so we don't hear that train. But they looked at it. We've had people from Washington DC come down that's restored train depots up there. Out from Colorado's come in and looked at it. So where we are, we're going to try to surplus this and hopefully we can get a good bid. And we still have the right to refuse it if Doug and Melissa, and we'll bring it to the council and let y'all know about it before we say, okay, we're going to approve this. We're just not just going to, here it is, we're gone, where it's out of our hair. And we will put timelines on it and stipulations, so everyone will have to be up to speed. You don't get to buy the property and just let it sit there for 3 or 4 years. When you buy it, we're going to have to move forward with it on that. And that's what I'm asking the council to do, is approve me to be able to surplus this piece of property on approval that we approve the bids and we do a research on who gives their bids.
Any discussion on the depot?
Hi,
Ms.
good
Francis?
evening. How are you doing? Okay, Mayor, I wanted to ask, we had some funding set aside for the depot. I'm not sure the amount.
About 14,000. It's still sitting in the account that Melissa has for us. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's 14,000.
I believe it's right at 14.
Okay. So if we,
I might be wrong on that number. We'll let Melissa tell us on that.
Melissa, do you have?
I know I'm wrong on that number.
It's more than 100,000. I think it's around 128, but
Yes.
I would have to get that number. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Okay, thank you. If we surplus this, what will happen to the funding if
It will come back to council and be reallocated.
it'll be reallocated?
Yes, ma'am.
You have an idea where you might want to put it?
That'll be up to
Not
y'all.
yet?
That'll be
Okay.
up to council.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to
Yes.
find out.
Forgive me for not doing my due diligence ahead of time, but the question just came to my mind. Is the depot on some kind of historic registry?
Yes, it is on a historic registry. Yes, it will.
National or Kentucky?
Kentucky,
Kentucky, okay,
I believe, and national, both.
okay.
I've got papers on that in my office upstairs, but it is on the national register. Yes.
Okay. All right.
And that will have some guidelines to deal with it when they remodel.
It opens some doors for additional funding sources, so.
Good.
Just to
Chuck.
make a comment, if my recollection is correct, it also has some additional requirements on the deed, if I remember correctly.
I believe it does. Yes, it does.
We had the deed restriction for purpose lifted. We told them that was part of the deal of closing some of the roads, that we wouldn't go further.
Oh, okay, so they've been removed?
So we wanted to be able to use it for private purposes. That was lifted with CSX through
Okay.
their real estate office in Jacksonville, Florida.
Good.
I mean, we want to move it to surplus. We'll entertain a motion.
All right,
Any further discussion?
I'll make the motion. We forward it to council to surplus.
I'll second.
All right, I believe I've got Travis. Who did I hear over here first? I heard Doug Wilcox.
Yeah.
I heard it over here. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, let's put it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Believe that one carries.
All right.
You don't get to go anywhere.
No,
Your-
no, I'm
your
still
name-
standing
Your name
here.
is still there.
I'm still here. I'd like to take a moment to talk about the walking trail bridge at Lafette Road. Coach William Falls was killed there in 1973. He was assistant basketball coach at Hopkinsville High School. He was the head basketball coach at Addix High School. Our former mayor, Mr. Lynch, played for the man. Good man. This gentleman, it was all about the kids, the young people. If you needed to ride home or ride to practice, he was there. He was there to make sure that every young person had a chance to do what they needed to do. Unfortunately, back in 1973, they didn't have caution lights at Lafette Road. Yeah, I can remember back that far, Steve. That is true. We used to laugh. You'd see the train come by in the mornings, and Mom would always say, "You better hurry up. You're going to be late. We're going to get caught by the train." And that's been a while, but I would like to have this council give their blessing on just renaming, or not renaming, just naming, because it does not have a name. It just has the walking trail bridge, is put a sign up in memory of Coach Falls and what he was for Hopkinsville and how he done for Hopkinsville. You know, he was also a member of the Pioneers. He was one of the founding members of the Pioneers. You know, he done a lot for Hopkinsville. I think we ought to give this sign. You know, Terry Manuth come and called me about it, oh Lord, back in June or before, and asked, could we talk about this? And I said, yes, we'll talk about it. So I got to digging. I talked to Alyssa Keller and them over. We got a nice thing about him over in the museum. You know, he was installed into the Hall of Fame for Hopkinsville as a basketball winning 2 state champions. And we'd like to see if you would give us your blessing on that tonight.
I'd like to make a motion that we name this particular bridge in honor of Coach Falls.
Second.
I'm going to give the second to Terry because Terry mouthed at me before you said that he wanted to make the motion. So hopefully we can get both of you on that.
Okay.
So
All right.
is there any further discussion on that? And before we vote it, I'm just going to ask, I know we've got a large contingency in the crowd tonight that showed up for this purpose. And I'm the chair. I'm going to do what I want every now and then.
Every now and then.
Is there any of y'all that have anything you'd like to say? If not, that's fine. But y'all showed up, y'all showed out tonight, and I'd like to give you that opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Council. This really hits a soft spot in our community, not just the African American community, but our entire community. Coach Falls was also a mentor of mine, a coach and a teacher. I'll share something with you. Back in 1930, in the spring of 1935, the coach at Adams High School had resigned. And Mr. Gladstone Kaufman, y'all may remember that name, some of you, walked into that school one afternoon at the close of school and walked into Coach Falls' office and closed the door. And everyone in the school thought this white man walked in to an African-American school, and that was the last day for Coach Falls. So Coach Falls emerged out of that meeting as the interim coach for Christmas Adams High School, and the rest is history. And I was honored 5 years ago, along with several others. Coach Carl Yannick, Coach Roy Willem wasn't able to attend the Kentucky Athletic High School Hall of Fame presentation when Coach Fall was honored. He was a lot more than just a coach. I had the opportunity while he was mentoring and coaching at Hopkinsville High School to ask him, why didn't you accept another head coaching job when they closed Alex High School? And in his usual fashion, he said, Brother Lynch, I enjoyed coaching and I'm still doing some of that, but I'm first an educator. And that's the way he felt. He really wanted to pour back into the lives of young people. So this honor will help to let everyone know and to see his legacy and what he meant to our community. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you, Mayor Lynch. Well, we've got motion second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I don't think there's any opposed. That motion carries. So we're going to hop on down to curbside debris discussion. I think we've got actually me and the mayor on this one, and
We could tag team this one.
we're gonna actually pull Mr. Willen in on this one after our discussion today. Just a brief background on this. I think this conversation has probably been going on, Mayor Knight, what do you think, at least a year?
Year and a half, we've been talking about this on the curbside, because when we have trash debris sitting on the road, if we set someone out on an eviction notice, it's blowing up and down the streets. The pilfers are coming through, making our city look even worse. When you stop, well, I just use an example. Last month, we stopped in the middle of Virginia Street and moved stuff out of the road where someone was set out from a house eviction, and we had to put the stuff back out of the road so people could drive down Virginia Street. Where we're at with this, and I'm asking council to really think about this, because we got to clean our city. We got to move this forward. And Councilman Lineberg, I get a phone call at least once a week from her over this situation, not knocking it. She's doing her job. I'm not knocking on that. I'm glad she's calling. What we got to do is we got to figure out how we can start doing something different. Steve and me have put our heads together on that, and then we've got a few things to look at, and I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
So at this point, I think I'm gonna turn it over to Doug. What we want to do, I think I'd appreciate you if you just kind of explain the ordinance. Looking back historically on the enforcement of the ordinance, we're in a better situation to enforce it by the way it's written now. So the main thing we want to explain is, like we talked about today, what it doesn't change.
If you can look at pages 17 forward in your packet, this is a very convoluted ordinance that deals with everything having to do with solid waste, but there are several definitions that you need to take a look at because they may not be exactly like you would anticipate. Number one is building material. This is on page 17 at the top. That's solid waste which results from the collection, remodeling, repair, and demolition of structures. That one's easy. Curbside collection, a method of residential collection in which the resident transports the garbage container to the curb of the street in front of his or her residence. That's also important. Garbage, any discarded material or anything thrown away or rejected is worthless or useless. And owner is defined as any person or entity that possesses any interest in real estate, which would include a tenant or any occupant of the real estate in the city. And I think that's where some of the confusion has come from. The owner can also include a tenant. Trash, you would think that trash would be the same as garbage. It's not. Trash is accumulation of lawn, grass, trees, or shrubbery cuttings, bushes and leaf rakings, which should be free of dirt, rocks, trees, or large branches and bulky or non-combustible material. So those are the main definitions. But then if you'll go to middle of page 19, trash and building material collection. That's basically what we're talking about, is setting out these large areas of building material and trash. Under subsection 2, all trash, household goods, and furniture shall be set out together at a designated collection point no earlier than the day prior to the day of collection by the enterprise. Household goods shall include but not be limited to furniture, clothing, appliances, carpet, drapes, mattresses. That's what we're seeing that's piled up at curbside. Section 3, except for limbs no more than 2 cubic yards, that's 6 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet, of building material or trash shall be placed at the designated collection point for any regular collection day that the owner occupied residential properties, at owner occupied residential properties. And the next line is the most important one in the entire ordinance relating to this issue. No business, landlord, or contractor shall place any building material, garbage, limbs, or household goods at a designated residential collection site. So the landlord cannot clean out the apartment, clean out the house, and place it at curbside. That would be a violation of this ordinance to be enforced by code enforcement. So there is a gap there of what do you do in those situations. But I'll be glad to answer any questions regarding the ordinance as it stands now. We have met with Chad Civils now that he's enforcing the code. He's met with solid waste. We're all trying to get on the same page on how to enforce this to be consistent so that there's no unequal treatment. So that's where we are now.
And I'm going to go back to conversations as being on the solid waste board that I've had with our interim GM, Brian Silver, also our route supervisor, Jason Holt. Our drivers are kind of getting put in a bad situation because, quite honestly, if they're up by an apartment, the stuff's sitting there, they drive past it. Well, somebody's calling in on them going, why aren't your guys doing their job? Well, honestly, they are doing their job. They're supposed to drive past it And they're working with, I talked to Jason last night. Things are getting a little better working with Chad and his crew on that. But what I did when me and Mayor Knight kind of discussed getting this on the agenda is I talked to Brian and I talked to Jason. I said, hey, if we're going to start enforcing this thing, we're going to have to give some help. We're going to have to come up with a service that's going to help everybody out. So what we came up with is, because your average homeowner is still going to be able to put their stuff out. Your homeowner's not going to affect you. It's guys like, honestly, like me, the contractor, that, you know, I put dumpsters on almost all my jobs. If it's a small one, I bring in a trailer, I haul it. So you got your landlords, and I've talked to several landlords in town as well. Got some pretty good feedback to where we can start scheduling a knuckle boom truck. That's a service that is currently not offered through solid waste. So they came up, we had a meeting last night that I thought was going to go into this morning. But we came up with this fee schedule. And so what we're kind of asking is, this is another manner that the landlord, the contractor, you know, I'll use, for example, I had a small job a month or so ago over on Camilla Drive. It didn't constitute me paying for a 20-yard dumpster. You know, my dumpsters cost, I think, $185 to set plus tonnage when they drop, when they go across the scale. It would have been a lot better for my job that day, which was probably going to be, honestly, a half load or a quarter load, for me to set it out, call out to solid waste and go, hey, come pick it up, send me a bill. You know, that would have worked out a lot better. We wouldn't have, in this instance, my crew had to like triple handle. We had to get it out of the house. We had to get the trailer, get it on the trailer, take it somewhere, get it off the trailer. So we're giving folks another option. We're not saying they have to use this, but there is now several dumpster services available. This is for the small stuff, something we're offering. So what we're asking is if we could send this, because this will have to go through council, have to be an ordinance change, because all the fee schedules and services do have to be approved by council out at solid waste. And we're just asking to have this, somebody make a motion, send it on up, and try to get this thing done so we can start offering this service.
I'll
questions.
second that.
Okay, hold on one minute. I've got, who made the motion?
Bruce got the motion.
Bruce got the motion, Doug got the second.
Question.
And then now Natasha's got the question.
Thank you, appreciate it. As I been seeing, most contractors do use their dumpsters. The ones that don't maybe use the dumpsters is the little man, the little one that might have one property, maybe two properties where they don't have a license, that they may need to put some things on the side of the road, but not tearing up the house. It's mostly cleaning it out because of how it's left. Is that going to be affected to where they're not going to be able to pick up?
If they own the house and live in the house per the ordinance, if they are an occupant, then yeah, they put it out. But
If the water is cut on in their name, is that own the house?
do they live there?
Well, that's where you're making it a little sticky now, huh?
The ordinance, I don't think makes it sticky.
The definition of owner is any person or entity that possesses any interest in real estate or any occupant of real estate in the city. But the ordinance also provides in subsection C, no landlord can place the items out by the curbside.
Well, that's why it makes it harder, because the person that is the owner most likely is the landlord. And so that's why I'm trying to ask you if that person has
The landlord cannot place it pursuant to this ordinance at curbside.
no
It's prohibited.
mattress, no nothing on the
That's
side of the road.
That's correct. The tenant could, but not the landlord.
Well, the tenant's probably gone already.
Exactly. That's the situation that we're facing.
That'd be a cost of doing business.
I'm just trying to make sure that it doesn't hurt citizens that are already in a tight rope already, doing what they need to do to maintain. And we are supposed to be helping clean up Hopkinsville. So, I mean, where does it go? To the landfill? Is that where it goes?
Yes.
Okay, so it goes to the landfill and it goes where they cover it up. So it doesn't cost the city anything to take it to the landfill other than the trucks and the workers and stuff, right? So it's not
It is,
waiting.
No, it costs quite a bit.
Costs a lot.
That landfill runs about a $10 million budget.
Okay.
And we're not necessarily getting rich out there. I mean, when you look at the operations of the landfill with the amount of employees we have, with the amount of equipment, the maintenance alone on that equipment, all the licenses and everything that goes on out there, operating that landfill is, there's a lot of expense attached to that.
Okay, I had a citizen approach me on that and they asked me, is it possible that it may have just be dumped, people be dumping things on the side of the road, not necessarily belonging to a house, but like they do tires from time to time? Is that going to be something that we're going to be prepared for?
I guess if we catch them doing it, then yeah. But people are going to throw McDonald's bags out their bag driving down the interstate. I mean, what we're trying to do right here is enforce an ordinance that needs to be enforced. It's putting
We're
like
trying to
Mayor
beautify
Knight
the
said,
city. We're trying to clean it up.
Yeah.
And we cannot clean it up. And I understand, all right, somebody throws tires out, but if they throw them out in front of my house over on that we own over there on Florence, it is my responsibility as the property owner to clean it up, not the city of Hopkinsville. You know, if somebody dumps tires in front of your house, Miss Natasha, I'm sorry they did it, but they will be your responsibility to get rid of them because the city doesn't pick up tires. You know, it will be the property owner's situation to take care of that.
Even though they weren't the one.
Even though it wasn't one, it's
Absolutely.
still.
Councilmember Smiley.
We're not changing the ordinance. What we're doing is trying to enforce the ordinance as written now.
Correct.
What
As
we
written,
are
give a
doing
fee.
here is with this motion, is to add this service so that it will be possibly a little cheaper for the landowners or landlord to place their, to get their former tenants' junk, get rid of. And believe me, I've done it and I know how it is. And I personally like the idea that I could just pick up the phone and call and say, hey, you know, I've got this stuff. I'm going to set it out. Come get it tomorrow, please. And a lot of contractors, small contractors would rather do that than have to go get a trailer, put it on, like Steve said, put it on a trailer, take it out there, then unload it. You get into a lot more cost than what you would with doing this. So the motion that's on the floor is just to add this service.
Correct.
But we're not changing the ordinance.
That's correct.
That's correct. We're adding a service to help enforce the ordinance, to be quite honest. Yeah.
With that, I think it's good that we have discussed matters like this at committee of the whole, because then it gives small landlord property owners an opportunity between now and the time that it's going to come before council to actually make their contacts and make sure that they're there and can be heard. And with that, I move the question.
And quite honestly, Councilmember Marsh, talking with Jason last night after our meeting out at Solid Waste, he said the relationship he's getting with the code department right now, that it's making our drivers' jobs a lot easier now that we're enforcing it. I think it's being enforced, but if we're going to do it, like we said, we got, it's a way to help these folks out. And honestly, the prices, when Brian sent me the prices over.
Price is pretty reasonable.
Me and JR both looked at them. I was like, man, that's a deal.
That's a
In
deal.
my opinion, somebody that writes those checks, that's a deal. So any further discussion on this one? We got motion second on the floor, correct? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Put my spectacles on, see who's next. We've got Miss Melissa Clayton doing the ARPA Funds reprogramming.
Good evening. We had, with Municipal Order 22 2, 2022, designated $64,000 of the ARPA funds for the sidewalk at Greenville Road. That project is complete and ended, and the MO is very specific, and we cannot use those funds for anything else unless you guys reprogram, unless you guys decide where the funds are going to go. So they have to be allocated by December 31st of this year. So we have to put it either in another project that we already have on the books slated, or decide a new project. We're recommending that they go into the Party Lane Park funds and be used for any additional money we might need in that account. So we're just asking for this to be sent to council.
Motion.
Second.
All right, we got Don, we got Amy. Any discussion?
No.
Travis, did you have your hand up, or you just
I
trying
was
to
scratching my,
just scratch?
sorry about that.
Just check. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. So now we will drop down to the KLC Investment Pool participation.
So Troy had asked us, well, we had decided that we needed to look into making sure that the city is earning the maximum amount we can on our reserve accounts. So we got out the MO that was passed in 2020 about how city investments are supposed to be done. So I included that memo in your packet that talks about what we're supposed to do if we're going to invest money. So we included that for you guys to review. We are looking at investing the pension reserve fund, and that amount is $1,201,994 with the KLC Investment Pool. So this is really just to kind of inform you guys of what we're doing. We're currently in the due diligence process. We're checking out their audit and looking at what type of reserves, what type of interest and dividends they're getting on what they have. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yeah, they have a money market. I included in there too a little brochure of what all we could pick with them. Let me see what page.
Page
that was.
35.
Page 35. So we're not really asking for any action. This is more to just let you guys know, according to the municipal order, there's an investment committee. It's Troy and myself and Gary, who's the budget officer. We serve as the investment committee. And so we met and started talking about how we might earn some more interest or dividends on the city's money. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have. We're not really asking for any action.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I got one.
You got a question?
Where's the money at right now? Is it
It sits in the
Planners.
general fund?
buried somewhere? Yeah.
No, it sits in the general fund right now, and I show it as a reserve. It's added into the dollar amounts that I report on every month. It sits in the general fund,
So
but it's,
is that planners?
yes, it's at Planners.
Okay.
And council members, to be very candid, as a class 2 city, and all of you know JD Cheney, our executive director at KLC. Most of those cities participate in some form or another in the insurance program with KLC. We don't. We've just always been able, working through Higgins, to find better deals for our employees. So JD very candidly asked, would we participate in this program? Because all the other cities are participating. and we aren't.
JD was candid.
Any opportunity he gets.
And when we say invest, many of these are money markets. I don't want you to think we're going to run to Wall Street and throw you money in the stock market, but we're just trying to be a good participant with KLC.
Sounds good.
All right. Believe that's all you've got.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item F, we've, in Doug talk, we're going to remove that from the agenda for tonight. That'll come back around at a later date. And item G is the domestic fowl running at large in the city. Not large domestic fowl, no ostriches, right?
That's right.
All right.
No
So-
emus, no ostriches.
All
and-
right, so I'm going to call on Councilmember Leinenberger. The floor is yours.
Okay, do you want me here or you want me up there?
Wherever you're most comfortable.
All right,
Yes.
so let's talk chickens. I feel like the chicken dance ought to come on, but anyway, we'll keep it serious a little bit. Right, exactly. Okay, so
I've had residents come to me and say, hey, we'd like to keep chickens. We'd like to have eggs. We'd like to use them as therapy. I've heard a lot of things. I've heard the pros and cons of chickens. I've heard the, oh my God, the bird flu is coming. I've heard all sorts of stuff. I've also seen people say, well, they'll be running at large. Well, no, they're not going to run at large. And council members, if you will look on your desks in front of you, I have included what I thought was the best permit on the market. We have that one, but what I have is something different. Because I'm not one to reinvent the wheel. If the wheel's already been made, let's not reinvent it. Let's work smarter, not harder. City of Port Orange has a great urban chicken ordinance. They have a very good urban chicken permit application that I thought could be adopted here with the city of Hopkinsville for people who would like to have chickens. And I did not want to overwhelm any other city department with having, 100 homes or allowing everyone to have a chicken or to have 100 chickens. So whereas the city of Port Orange sets their limit at 30, I thought 30 would be good. And even today, as I was talking with a couple people, I thought if agencies that were doing the enforcement thought, well, maybe 30 homes to monitor was a little too much. We could back that off to 15. And then to see how it went, we could up that up to 30. So it'd be a first come, first serve basis. We would not have more than 4 chickens per home. The chicken coops would need to be inside an opaque fence. And to right out the get-go, the home where the chickens would be, the property, that would need to be owner occupied. And in this terminology, that's owner occupied, not tenant occupied. The homeowner would need to live there if they wanted to have chickens on their property. And having a coop, the coop would need to meet some requirements. It would have to be away from the property, the neighbor's property, away from the house, behind an opaque fence. And there would be some strict guidelines. And I know some people, I've heard comments where first come, first serve, that seemed discriminatory or they didn't like that terminology. But however, in the city of Hopkinsville, there are a lot of things that are first come, first serve. And I think when people are motivated to have something and they'd like something, first come, first serve gets them up and out of the bed and the early bird gets the worm. In this case, it's probably a chicken. So chickens wouldn't be running wild around the city. They would be in a run. They would have a coop. They would lay their eggs. And I propose 30 homes could have chickens. They would sign up. There'd be a little application. And I think we could work with the extensions office and have a little class to say, hey, just to make sure you know what you're getting into. Because I know some people get excited about owning things. Hey, let's buy something. And then suddenly you're just like, well, maybe I'm not into this. But then there would be a waiting list. If someone didn't make the first come, first serve, there would be a waiting list. And if someone drops off the program, or they drop out of owning chickens, they don't want to, or there's a violation, unlike other things, we would not, oh, you've had one violation, here's a slap on the hand. No, if you're not abiding by the ordinance to have chickens and you're not a responsible chicken parent, then you're done being a chicken parent. And the next person on the list would move up, and then they would have the opportunity to be the chicken parent and have eggs. And also with the ordinance, there would be no slaughtering of chickens. There would be no selling of your eggs. I don't want to be seeing signs posted said, hey, I'm selling eggs here. Come get my eggs at the corner of 4th and Main. No, the ordinance would not allow for that. No roosters. So we'd only have hens. And just a little biology lesson. We don't need roosters to have eggs. Not everybody knows that. Just a little tidbit there. So your 4 chickens, limited the number of people who have chickens. Code enforcement could make sure that the coops and things are up to snuff and what they need to be, first come, first serve basis. And I think that by bringing this to committee of whole, I'd like to send it to council with a text amendment ordinance where it would give us an opportunity to help the residents and as someone who was voted in by residents to say, here, I'm working for you, the people. So questions, comments, good chicken jokes, I'll take them.
Any discussion on chickens?
Councilmember Lineberger, what has been the main complaint for residents who were against this?
Bird flu, and they'd be running wild all over the city.
Smell?
Smell.
Smell. I haven't heard the smell.
I have.
I've heard smell running over all around the city. I've heard, oh, they're gonna bring roosters. I said, well, we don't have an ordinance yet. Once we've seen, haven't said anything about roosters, so, you know.
And again, no roosters are allowed, and you don't need roosters to have eggs. And when a hen is 180 days old, she lays eggs regardless. Right.
So, actually, no, you got a question?
No, I just got a comment. So,
Oh, okay.
you know, when we first started having this conversation back about a year and a half ago, I did a fair amount of research just trying to understand it a little better, and had, you know, several reach out just like all of us did. And I looked in and I saw that, I just started Googling and looking around to see what other cities had ordinances. And the first one I went to was Franklin, Tennessee, which is in Williamson County, Tennessee, the highest priced real estate in the state of Tennessee. They've got a chicken ordinance and they allow for this. So, you know, not that that makes it right for us, but when I started talking to some of the folks that were advocating for the chickens, most of the ones I talked to weren't advocating for the reasons that the complaints were about. They were advocating for health reasons or other reasons. And I think what we got here is pretty reasonable as far as keeping under control. And I think, you know, I talked to Tom a little bit about this. Tom, I'll keep that offline, but I mean, like, you know, in my mind, this gives us a little more control over the chickens than less. So if you're not within these guidelines, then you're out of bounds. Right now, everybody's out of bounds, but there's still folks that are going to do it. So now you at least have an avenue.
I've got two questions that have come to mind. First, we're talking about if you break a rule or whatever, you get your permit pulled, what happens to the chickens?
And then the owner needs to find someplace for the chickens.
Who's going to enforce that?
Your permit's pulled, that we can enforce, the CDS could enforce that, codes could enforce that, codes could enforce that.
But where are the animals going?
That's true, we don't have a chicken shelter. Yeah.
That would be,
the
I
chick-
mean, that on legitimately would be a concern. I mean, what would happen to the animal at that point?
Hampton meat.
There you go,
So
serve them with asparagus.
that's something we definitely have to work through. My next question actually is for
I'm sorry.
Mr. Willen. I get concerned anytime I see we're gonna allow 30 residents in a city of, what, 30,000. How long will it take for us to get sued over not everybody being allowed to have a chicken, I guess is my question.
I have not researched that, but it doesn't really take a reason to file a lawsuit. So, you know, I would have some equal protection concerns, but I haven't researched it. And I don't know that this ordinance in Florida has been challenged. I don't know, but apparently it's still on the books. But that would be something I would need to look at.
Fair enough.
Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned about the adjoining property owners to folks who may be next to someone who keeps chickens. And I was a little concerned that this ordinance did not require those property owners that want to keep chickens to get assigned permission from all the adjoining property owners. We usually do something like that with many, permits that we give out. It's a condition that we get. And I would like to suggest that we add that. That would give some additional protection to neighboring property owners that the people wanting to keep the chickens would be required to get signed permission from every adjoining property owner, even if they're across the street. If that property adjoins, even across the street, that they would have to get the signed permission of their property owners of adjoining properties. I make it a motion.
And that would be where we, actually included the Russell Springs. Those things are all listed in there. Question I would have, and I'm going to call on Tom Britton on this one, if you don't mind, because a lot of the stuff that we're looking at, this is, regardless of what decision we make here, it's going to have to go back to zoning. You're going to have some square footage on lot size issues. Tom, what is our average lot size in Hoptown, just for reference?
Yeah, Mr. Keel, I haven't run the number recently, but it depends on where you are. In our R4 districts, your average lot size is about 6,000 to 7,000 square feet, which is about a sixth of an acre. In the R1 district, I think it goes all the way up to 0.7-ish. So about 3/4 of an acre in an R1. So it varies by where you are in the city. Now, a lot of our recent development has been zero lot line or smaller lots. So we have seen a lot of recent platting with lots of about 4,000 to 5,000 square feet, which is about an eighth of an acre. So it just depends, Mr. Keel, on where you are in the city.
So when we start talking setbacks and those things, and then to Councilmember Marsh's point, living in the historic district, trust me, I know about getting everybody across the street, or if I can see the house from my front porch, I think I got to get their signature. So, I mean.
Yes, sir. One point of clarification on this. There are a couple of different options on how the council could potentially address this. One is through the zoning code, which is chapter 58, or potentially through the animal ordinance, which is chapter 90. So the requirements of text amendment, that's going to vary depending on where you want to place this within your code. If you place it in chapter 90, any enforcement would fall under the fire department's code prevention. If it's in 158, the enforcement would be with the zoning administrator or CDS. So that's one of the considerations. Also, the process will be a little bit different depending on how you structure this chapter 90 versus chapter 158.
Thank you.
I would just mention that, I've only had one property owner approach me wanting to keep chickens, and they did not have any, prohibition against getting their neighbor's permission. As a matter of fact, they've already done that. All of the adjoining property owners are in agreement. So I didn't think it was out of the question to mention it.
No, that's
Yeah.
yeah. I was agreeing with you on that. All right.
So all of us are a novice at this, I get it. What about homeowners associations? How would the ordinance apply to those that don't permit that?
If there's an existing homeowners association with restrictions, then that would trump this ordinance. But you wouldn't be able to bring in a homeowners association after the ordinance is passed to nullify it.
So if it's not currently in a homeowner association, because
It'd be questionable. And, well, I'll just leave it at that. But the homeowners association restrictions would trump this.
Okay. Yeah.
Councilmember Smiley.
I am totally against it. I'm an old farm boy, and we've had chickens, hogs, cattle, goats, raised them all. And I don't care what you say, they're going to smell. And I don't care how clean you keep it, they're going to smell. Not only that, they say, okay, well, I want eggs. Well, I want as a pet, more or less. Well, I hate to bring my wife into this, but she's always wanted a goat. So you tell me what the difference is in you allowing someone to have chicken, and my wife wanting a goat that she can milk and have milk, make cheese with if she wanted to, have goat yoga if she wanted to. I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of the situation, but I'm serious. Where will it lead to?
Where will it stop?
And again, I it don't matter what ordinance is brought, as long as I'm sitting in this seat, I'll vote no against each one of them. I just wanted to let everybody know my opinion.
Believe we got it loud and clear. Any other comments on this? All right, what's your pleasure?
Vote or something?
I mean,
There's no motion.
There's no motion down. There's nothing on the floor. That's why I say, what's your pleasure?
That's my question.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the floor to vote on.
There's nothing on the floor to vote on at this point.
So at this point, could I make a motion to?
Sure.
Yes, you can.
So-
What's your motion?
My motion is to send it to council so we could send it for a text amendment change to ordinance. I think that's what I'm after.
Can I suggest if you want this to go to council, what I would recommend is, since we're dealing with a lot of different suggestions regarding what's going to be in the ordinance, would be to instruct the city council, the city attorney to draft the ordinance, bring it back to council at committee of the whole to make sure it's as you want before it would go to council.
Okay, so there, my motion is to have the city attorney help us out here and draft an ordinance, and we bring it back to committee of the whole.
I'll second that.
Still got a motion and a second. I'm gonna step out of bounds what I normally do. I'm gonna make a motion to amend the motion to also send this to the zoning, to attach zoning regulations that can be dealt with within the ordinance if it was to pass through. That's my motion, is to send it also not only to the city attorney, but to zoning, because we're gonna have to deal with this in a zoning fashion as well.
Second.
Keel, are you supposed to make a motion or we are?
I can make a
He
motion,
can.
I just
Make
choose
one?
not to
Okay,
typically.
okay.
I second.
And okay, we got a motion and a second, so
Let's vote
Doug,
on the amendment.
so we're going to vote on the amendment. We'll go roll call on that, and the amendment is to send it for zoning at CDS.
I just wonder if we should vote on the other one first.
Well, we can't, because we have to have the amendment before we can vote on the regular motion. All right, we'll roll call it, please.
So which one are we voting on
The-
first?
the amendment.
We're
To send
voting
it
on
to-
the amendment to add zoning regulations.
Councilmember Meek. Councilmember Lumberger.
Yes.
Councilmember Keel.
Vote yes, I'm voting to send it to CDS. I made the motion, I gotta be sure I'm right, yeah.
Councilmember Bell.
Yes.
Councilmember Handy. Councilmember Francis.
Yes.
Councilmember Smiley.
Abstain.
Councilmember Marsh.
Yes.
Councilmember Crabtree.
Yes.
Councilmember Craig.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcox.
Yes.
And that does pass to amend that first motion.
Now we need to vote on the
So
motion
now,
as amended.
the motion as amended will be to, help me out here. The motion as amended is gonna be to send,
The ordinance
The-
to the city
the-
attorney.
to direct the city attorney and CDS to draft zoning guidelines and an ordinance dealing with chickens in the city.
Yes.
That's close enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's roll call that one also. So voting, let's be sure we clarify. So voting on this one, yes, you're voting to move forward with chickens. If you vote no, you're, be sure Bruce knows which way to vote here. All right, everybody clear on what you're voting on?
Yes.
Yes.
Fire away.
Councilmember Meek. Councilmember Lumberger.
Yes.
Councilmember Keel.
No.
Councilmember Bell.
Yes.
Councilmember Francis.
Yes.
Councilmember Smiley.
No.
Councilmember Marsh.
Yes.
Councilmember Crabtree.
No.
Councilmember Craig.
No.
Councilmember Martin.
No.
Councilmember Wilcox.
Yes.
6-5.
Yep, so it does not pass.
That motion does not pass. Their vote is 6-5. So, anybody got any other tonight?
Yes, I have another.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, and the mayor and I, we talk all the time. I chew his ear, not literally, but on the phone. I always ask him questions. I'll call him up and say, hey, what are we doing about this? Why can't we do this? Let's do this. So when and this has to do with weeds, trash, garbage, porches, fines, things like that. So we live in a city where 54% approximately of the people who live in the city rent. There is a mentality that goes with renting. Not always a good one. However, in talking to some landlords recently, probably a while, I've been talking to them. We'd like to see, and I'd like to see where the fine for the weeds, trash, and grass, that it's not just dumped on the owner. I know we have some owners, landlords that own multiple homes, and renters move in, and I've seen some rental agreements where, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Tenant, you're responsible to mow your yard, you're responsible to do this, you're responsible to do that. And they take no responsibility. The homeowner gets the fine. They try to pass that on to the renter. The renter is just like, well, you know, I just live here. I'm not the owner. That's to you. So I would like to see somehow that we could get the resident of the home be the one that gets the fine for the weeds, trash, and grass, not just the owner occupied. It would be that whoever's occupying that home somehow gets that fine, and not just the owner of the home. I don't know how that can be done, but I think we need to rework an ordinance or get it where it's a resident that would be on the hook for that, to be responsible. I know you can't legislate people to be good, but bless your heart, you're trying to clean up this town, and sometimes lessons need to be taught, and they're hard lessons to learn. And I just think that maybe this may be a way to show people that you can have pride in even in renting. You don't just have to you don't have to own a home to have pride in it. But I think there needs to be something that would help out the landlords. And I'm not talking about the landlord tenant craziness that ruins cities around the nation, but I just think maybe this could be cleaned up, or it could have an ordinance or something that would help out. And that's I don't know how to put that in formal words, but
My main concern would be every time there's a citation that is found to be valid by the Code Enforcement Board, there's a fine. If it's not paid, there's a lien assessed that's placed on that property. If it's only against the tenant, the city would have no recourse to place a lien on that property. A landlord can include language to require the tenant to reimburse for the cost of any fines that result from the tenant's actions on the property and violating any city ordinance. So my recommendation would be that would be the easiest and quickest way for the landlord to protect their investment in that property.
okay.
Doug, we're assuming there's a lease. And
That's
that's a
right.
huge problem in this town where we've got these handshake agreements.
Exactly.
Cash being paid. I can't enforce it.
No lease, no
I would
deposits.
love, as I told
right.
Councilmember, to go as hard as you would let me go. But it's a ghost situation. They're paying cash. There's no lease. Who am I hitting but the owner? I don't have a choice.
There's nobody else.
And that's
Well, and-
KRS.
Well, and Troy, to your point, I agree with you. I've talked to a lot of these landlords too, and they're not wrong. But also the handshake agreement, paying cash, that's my opinion. I hate to say it this way. I'm sure I'll make somebody mad. I'm pretty good at that. But the guy that owns the property, that's his own fault.
Right.
He's not
Yeah.
protecting himself. And if he wants to complain about it, put it in writing. That's the cost of doing business. And I know most of the landlords, the bigger ones that I talk to, especially when we're talking about this solid waste piece we talked about earlier, they have those protections in their leases. And so, they need to be sure if you're renting, you're renting on a handshake, and it's buyer beware as well. That's both sides. Neither
protection.
side has any protection.
Jamie's part here, I agree, we need some way to clean, keep it moving, keep it clean. You know, our code enforcement's right, tall grass, and weeds all over. our- They're very good. Mike can't keep up with the abatements, he had a little break because of the rain this week. You know, but that being said, we gotta figure a way to make sure that somebody takes pride. We can't make anybody take pride in their own stuff, you know, but there again, we need to figure, there's gotta be a way to make it do it. There again, man, giving you cash, they ain't too worried about the consequences either.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's,
Nobody's protected there.
No.
They're stealing, let's be honest, from the city. It's a business.
and at the end of the day,
That's right.
no, and I think, there's a police chief in the back that'll agree, you can't catch them all.
Yeah.
You know, we'd get the ones we can. I hate, that's just the harsh reality of it. But I do think it's a great point. I wish there was a way to catch them all. I know he does too.
Your lease.
All right, anybody else got anything else for other? All right,
Motion to adjourn.
I got a motion from Travis. I got a
Second.
second from Bruce. All in favor of going home, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, people in the crowd say aye.